There's a place in Denton County known as Old Alton Bridge, or as locals ominously call it, Goatman's Bridge. It's a place where whispers turn to screams and shadows seem alive. The legend tells of a goat farmer named Oscar, a black man who was lynched by a hateful mob here in the late 1800s. They hanged him from the bridge and left him for dead, but his body vanished. Some say he cursed the bridge before his death, vowing revenge. Even now, people claim to see his figure, half man, half goat, haunting the area. One Friday night, a group of thrill-seeking teenagers dared each other to visit the bridge. They'd heard the stories but didn't believe them. They brought flashlights and a Ouija board, laughing nervously as they joked about summoning the Goatman. But as the night deepened, laughter faded into tense silence. The woods around them felt alive, filled with whispers and the faint sound of hooves clicking against the bridge. Suddenly, one of the teens screamed, pointing toward the end of the bridge. There stood a figure, its outline grotesque and misshapen. Its eyes glowed red, piercing through the mist. The air grew cold, and an overwhelming stench of sulfur filled their nostrils. Without a word, the group turned and ran, but as they did, they heard heavy hooves pounding behind them. The sound grew louder, closer, until it stopped abruptly. When they dared to look back, nothing was there, except claw marks gouged deep into the wooden planks. Later, one of the teens noticed scratches on their arm that hadn't been there before. Another swore they could still hear the sound of hooves when they closed their eyes. And from that night on, all of them refused to return to Goatman's Bridge, haunted by a presence they could not explain. It was a chilly November night in Abilene, Texas, when a man named Brian had an encounter that changed him forever. It was past midnight when he heard a faint knock at his door. Strange, he thought. No one should be out this late. Hesitantly, he peeked through the peephole. 2 children stood on his porch, a boy and a girl, no older than 10. They wore outdated clothes and stood unnaturally still. When he opened the door slightly, the girl spoke. "Can we come in?" she asked, her voice flat and emotionless. "Our parents aren't here, and we're lost." Brian felt uneasy. There was something off about them. Their skin looked too pale, their movements too rigid. But it wasn't until the boy lifted his head that Brian's blood turned cold. Their eyes were pitch black, void of any whites. He slammed the door shut, heart racing. The knocking continued, louder this time. The girl's voice turned cold. "We can't come in unless you invite us," she said, her tone sharper. Brian backed away, trying to steady his breathing. He grabbed his phone, but no matter how many times he dialed, the line was dead. Outside, the children remained, their faces pressed against the window now, their black eyes unblinking. When dawn broke, the knocking stopped. Brian cautiously opened the door, only to find his porch empty. No footprints, no sign of the children, just an eerie silence. Days later, he learned of other encounters with black-eyed children in the area, each as terrifying as his own. Some say they are demons. Others believe they're alien hybrids. But one thing's for sure. If you hear a knock late at night, don't answer. Yorktown Memorial Hospital, nestled in a small Texas town, has a reputation as one of the most haunted places in the state. Built in the 1950s, it was run by a group of nuns who cared for the sick and dying. But its history is marred by death and sorrow. Over 2,000 people are said to have died within its walls, and some believe their spirits never left. A team of paranormal investigators decided to spend the night in the hospital, hoping to capture evidence of the afterlife. The air inside was thick with mildew and something else, something oppressive. As they walked through the empty halls, their flashlights illuminated rusted medical equipment and faded religious murals. It wasn't long before the first voice came through their EVP recorder. A faint whisper. Get out. As the night wore on, the group felt they were being watched. One of them turned a corner and froze. At the end of the hallway stood a nun, her habit flowing as if caught in an invisible breeze. Hello? The investigator called out, but the figure didn't move. When they approached, it vanished, leaving behind only a chilling cold. The activity escalated. Doors slammed on their own. Disembodied voices echoed through the halls, and one investigator felt an icy hand grip his shoulder. By 3 a.m., they had enough. The team fled the hospital, vowing never to return. But even now, when they play back their recordings, the whispers remain, a haunting reminder of the spirits trapped within Yorktown Memorial Hospital. Texas is a land of vast landscapes, rich history, and chilling tales that blur the line between the living and the dead. These stories are just a glimpse into the horrors that linger in the Lone Star State. If you're brave enough to visit, tread carefully. You never know what might be waiting in the shadows.